Hello, my name is Sarah Lynn Mitchell, and I'm from a small town called Pine Grove, Oregon. The story I'm going to share with you is something I never thought I'd be telling. It happened on April 19th, 2014, a day that started out like any other, but ended up shattering everything I thought I knew about life, death, and what comes after. I grew up in a modest little house tucked between the trees, with my mom, Lori, and my younger brother, Ethan. My dad left us when I was younger, and though it left a quiet kind of ache in our family, we had learned to keep moving forward. We didn't talk much about the hard parts. My mom kept busy working 2 jobs. Ethan was the goofy, energetic one, and I was the quiet dreamer who spent hours sketching in her notebooks, listening to the wind rustle through the pines outside my window. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. I never expected it to change. I never thought that an ordinary afternoon could lead to the moment where my heart would stop, where I would cross over to a place so vivid, so real, that it would forever alter the way I see the world. I remember that day so clearly. The air was warm, the sky bright blue, and the breeze carried the scent of pine needles and earth. I had just walked home from school, the sunlight still warming my skin, when it happened. It started as a tightness in my chest, like someone was pressing down hard, but within seconds, it turned into a pain so intense, so unbearable, it felt like my chest was imploding. It was as if invisible hands had gripped my heart and were crushing it from the inside out. I gasped, tried to take in air, but it felt like I was drowning, like the world was closing in around me. I remember the panic, the sheer terror as my knees buckled, and I collapsed onto the gravel path in front of our house. I tried to scream for my mom, but it came out as a strangled, breathless cry. My vision blurred, my body felt heavy, and then there was nothing. Just a darkness that swallowed everything. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. I remember opening my eyes, but they weren't really eyes in the way we think of them. It was like I could see without seeing, like I was part of the light itself. The world around me had changed. I wasn't lying on the gravel anymore. I was somewhere else, somewhere filled with this soft, glowing mist that seemed to breathe around me. The light was everywhere, but it wasn't harsh or blinding. It was warm, gentle, wrapping around me like the safest blanket I'd ever known. There was no pain, no fear, no sense of time, just peace. A peace so deep, so pure, that it filled every part of me. I felt like I had been carrying the weight of the world, and suddenly, all of it was lifted away. I was weightless, floating, completely free. And then I saw him. A figure was moving toward me through the mist, and as he came closer, my heart, if I even had a heart anymore, leapt with recognition. It was my grandfather, Richard Mitchell. I hadn't seen him since he passed away when I was 6, but there he was, exactly as I remembered, his warm eyes crinkling at the corners, the familiar flannel shirt that smelled of cedar and tobacco smoke, and that gentle, knowing smile. Tears welled up in my eyes, though I don't know how that was even possible, and I ran to him, or maybe I floated. I don't know, but I reached out and he embraced me. That hug was everything. It was like all the pain, all the loneliness, all the confusion I'd ever felt melted away in his arms. The love in that moment was so overwhelming, so pure, that it felt like my soul was being bathed in light. I could smell the cedar in his shirt, feel the scratchiness of his beard against my cheek, hear the soft rumble of his voice as he said, "Hello, my little sunshine." And I broke. I just sobbed and sobbed. Even though I didn't have a body, my soul just poured out every tear I'd ever held back. It felt like coming home after being lost for years. My grandfather looked at me with this bittersweet expression, like he was happy to see me but also sad, and he said, "Sarah, "You're not supposed to be here yet. But since you are, there are things you need to see." I didn't fully understand, but I nodded and he took my hand. The moment he did, the world shifted. The mist parted, and suddenly we were walking across this bridge, but it wasn't an ordinary bridge. It shimmered like it was made of liquid gold, and with every step, it gave off a soft, beautiful sound, like the gentle strumming of a harp, but deeper, almost like it was vibrating through my whole being. The air felt alive, charged with something I can't explain. Each step we took, I felt these waves of emotions flooding through me, memories I hadn't thought about in years, feelings I didn't even know I had. It was like the bridge was waking me up to parts of myself I had forgotten. And then we reached this field, the field. It wasn't just grass, it was like the ground itself glowed with light. The flowers sang, not with words, but with this soft, almost whisper-like melody that filled the air and made me feel like I was being held, comforted. And the sky, it changed colors with how I felt. When I felt joy, it turned golden. When I felt awe, it shimmered with purples and blues. It was like the whole place was connected to me, like it knew my heart and shifted with my soul. And then I saw them, figures standing in the distance. As we got closer, I realized who they were. My great-grandmother Mildred, who I had only seen in old black and white photos, was smiling at me like she had known me forever. My Uncle James, who died in a car accident before I was even born, was waving with a grin. And there was a woman young, radiant, with eyes that looked like the sky on a summer day, who introduced herself as Elizabeth. She was my mother's sister, a baby who had died before I was born. My family all there, waiting for me with arms open, eyes filled with love. They didn't speak with words, but I heard them clear as day in my heart. They told me I wasn't just Sarah. I was part of something much bigger, a soul that had been woven through time, connected to so many others, carrying a purpose that went far beyond what I could see on Earth. I was overwhelmed, to say the least. Tears streamed down my face as I felt this wave of recognition wash over me. It was like I had found a missing piece of myself that I didn't even know was gone. My grandfather gently squeezed my hand and led me toward a hill, and at the top was this temple, if you can even call it that. It wasn't like any building on Earth. It was made of golden light, and the entrance pulsed like it had a heartbeat of its own. It called to me, not with sound, but with feeling, like it was inviting me inside. We stepped through the archway, and the space opened into infinity. The walls glowed with soft golden light, and the floor beneath my feet seemed to vibrate, like it was alive. Floating above what looked like an altar were hundreds, maybe thousands of books. But these weren't books made of paper. They were made of pure light, and each one hummed with sound, music, laughter, voices. It was like each book was a life, a soul, a story unfolding in real time. My grandfather explained that these were the stories of souls, and that time didn't exist here like it does on Earth. Everything was happening at once. He reached out and opened one, and it blossomed into a vision like a hologram made of light. I saw a little girl playing in a sunlit yard, growing up, falling in love, facing loss, and eventually dying, only to return here, embraced by her family. My grandfather told me that little girl was my great-grandmother Mildred, and that she had returned in this life as my little sister Sophie. I could barely breathe. Tears poured down my face, and I felt my heart swell with love so fierce it almost hurt. I realized then that souls come back, that we're all connected across time, that our lives are woven together in this intricate, beautiful tapestry, and that nothing, no pain, no separation, no death can ever truly tear us apart. I stood there, completely overwhelmed by the weight of what I was seeing, by the beauty of it, by the truth of it. My tears kept flowing, and it wasn't the kind of crying that comes from sadness. It was the kind of tears that come when your soul is too full for words, when it overflows in a way that your body can't even hold. My grandfather's hand was warm in mine, grounding me, but even that warmth felt like it came from somewhere else, like it was the love of every moment I'd ever shared with him wrapped into that one simple touch. The air inside that temple pulsed like a living thing, and I could feel it humming through me, like it was waking up parts of me I didn't know existed. My grandfather looked at me and said, "Sarah, you're not here just to see this. You're here to remember." His voice was gentle but firm, like he was reminding me of something I had known all along but had forgotten. I could feel it in my chest, in the space behind my ribs, like an ache that was both painful and beautiful. We walked further into the temple, and as we moved, the books shifted, glowing, shimmering, almost as if they knew we were coming. Each book seemed to hum with its own unique energy, and as we passed them, I could hear whispers, echoes of lives I didn't know but somehow felt connected to. My grandfather stopped in front of a particularly bright book, and he reached out, his fingers brushing against its light. It opened, and the vision that unfolded before us was unlike anything I'd ever seen. It wasn't just a story, it was a life, a soul's journey in vivid, breathtaking detail. I saw a man standing in front of a crowd, his voice strong and commanding. He looked like a leader, someone respected and powerful. But as I watched, I felt a strange discomfort, like there was something wrong, something hidden. The man's face was blurred, as if a fog had been laid over it, but his energy, his presence, felt heavy, almost dark. My grandfather watched me, his eyes serious, and said, "This is someone you will see in your lifetime. The world will know him, but they won't see who he really is, at least not at first." My heart pounded in my chest, or whatever my chest was in that place, and I felt a wave of fear and curiosity wash over me. The vision shifted, and I saw people, thousands, millions, standing in the streets. They were holding signs, shouting, some in anger, some in hope, their faces filled with desperation and determination. It was like the entire world was on edge, waiting for something to break. I saw governments, news stations, social media feeds exploding with information, and it was like the whole planet was vibrating with this energy of revelation and chaos. My grandfather's voice echoed beside me, quiet but clear. There will come a time when the truth about this man will surface. Secrets long hidden will come to light. People will be shocked. Some will feel betrayed. Others will feel freed. But it will shake the very foundation of the world. I felt tears prick my eyes again, but this time it wasn't from joy. It was from this heavy sense of knowing, of responsibility. I wanted to ask who the man was, what he had done, but every time I tried to focus on his face, it stayed blurred, as if the universe wasn't ready to reveal that part to me yet. My grandfather gently touched my shoulder and said, "It's not for you to know the details yet. What matters is that you remember what you saw, that when the time comes, you'll feel it in your bones and you'll know. And you'll help others understand too." I nodded, even though I felt so small, so overwhelmed. The vision faded, and we were standing in the temple again, the books still floating, humming softly around us. My grandfather squeezed my hand, and I felt a deep sense of gratitude for him, for the moment, for the gift of seeing beyond what I thought was possible. But it wasn't over. My grandfather told me there was more. He led me to another space within the temple, a place that felt even more sacred, more intimate. The walls here seemed to shimmer with colors I couldn't name, like the very air was alive with emotion. In the center of the space was a large, glowing mirror, but it wasn't like any mirror I'd ever seen. It wasn't made of glass, it was made of swirling water, moving in slow, hypnotic spirals, reflecting not just images, but feelings, intentions, possibilities. My grandfather looked at me with a quiet, almost sorrowful smile, and he said, "This is the mirror of what could be. Not what will be, but what could be, based on the choices made by humanity." I felt a shiver run through me, like the weight of the whole world had been placed on my shoulders. I stepped closer, and the water rippled, clearing to show me scenes, cities rising and falling, people both suffering and healing, wars breaking out and peace being restored. I saw faces I didn't know but somehow felt connected to, people crying, laughing, holding hands, fighting, forgiving. And then I saw the leader again, the one from before, still shrouded in that spiritual fog. But this time, I felt it deeper, this sense that something hidden was about to be ripped away, exposed for all to see. My grandfather whispered, "When the time is right, the veil will lift. And when it does, many will awaken. But it won't be easy. There will be pain, division, confusion. But there will also be light, an awakening that will ripple across the world." The mirror pulsed, and I felt a surge of energy move through me, like it was planting a seed deep in my heart, a knowing that would stay with me until the day I needed it. I was shaking, tears streaming down my face, my hands trembling. I didn't know how I could carry all of this, how I could hold such a heavy, sacred truth inside me. My grandfather held me, wrapping his arms around me as if to shield me from the weight of it all, and he whispered in my ear, "You are not alone. You never have been. And when the time comes, you will remember." His words felt like they were etched into my very soul. I don't know how long we stood there. Time didn't feel real in that place. But eventually, I felt a shift, a gentle tug, like I was being pulled back towards something. My grandfather smiled at me, a bittersweet, loving smile, and he said, "It's time to go back, Sarah. Your story isn't finished yet." I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay in that place of peace, that place of knowing and love, where I felt whole and connected and safe. I wanted to keep listening to the hum of the books, to sit under the light of that temple forever. But the tug grew stronger, and I knew I had to return. My grandfather reached into his pocket and pulled out a small stone. It was smooth, blue, glowing with a soft, pulsing light. He placed it in my hand and closed my fingers around it. "You won't carry this in the physical world," he said, "but you'll feel it inside you. It will remind you. It will guide you." His voice trembled, and I could see tears in his eyes, tears that somehow made me feel both comforted and shattered. My grandmother appeared beside him then, smiling softly, and she took my other hand. Her presence was so gentle, so familiar, it felt like a soft blanket being draped over my shoulders. "We're always with you," she whispered. "Every step you take, every tear you cry, every moment you doubt, we'll be there. You'll feel us in the quiet, in the wind, in the songs that make you stop and remember. We'll be there." And as the temple around me began to fade, as the light grew brighter, I felt their love wrapping around me, a love so powerful it felt like it could carry me through anything. And then, everything went black. I was falling, tumbling, spinning back into my body, into the world I had left behind. I opened my eyes to the harsh white lights of the hospital room, the sterile scent of antiseptic and plastic filling my senses, but for a long moment, I wasn't really there, not fully. My body felt heavy, almost foreign, like I was wearing a suit that didn't quite fit right. My chest ached, my throat was dry, and every sound in the room seemed distant, muffled, like I was hearing it from the bottom of a deep well. But slowly, the pieces started to come back. I saw my mother's face, red from crying, tears still wet on her cheeks, as she clutched my hand so tightly I could barely feel my fingers. Her voice trembled as she whispered my name over and over, like if she just kept saying it, I'd stay with her, like she was anchoring me to this world with her love alone. Ethan was there too, standing by the foot of the bed, his eyes wide and wet, his small hands clenching the rails so hard his knuckles were white. I wanted to speak, to tell them I was okay, but my throat felt raw, and the words wouldn't come. The doctor appeared then, his voice low and urgent, and I caught fragments: cardiac arrest, congenital defect, miracle. They said I had been gone for nearly 4 minutes. For minutes where my heart had stopped, where the machines had flatlined, and they had been about to give up. For minutes when I had left this world behind and walked through something so much bigger, so much more real than anything I had ever known here. I lay there, half listening, half floating, my body in that hospital bed, but my soul still lingering in the golden light of the temple, still feeling the hum of the books, still hearing the soft echo of my grandfather's voice telling me I wasn't alone. It was a strange, bittersweet ache being back in this world, but knowing that part of me had been changed forever. The days that followed were a blur of doctors, nurses, and questions I couldn't answer. They ran tests, poked and prodded, trying to understand how I had come back without any brain damage, without any lingering effects, as if my heart had simply stopped and then started again, no explanation. I overheard the words inexplicable recovery and spontaneous return to rhythm, but none of them could explain what I had seen, what I had felt. I tried to tell my mom about it, about the Bridge of Light, the Golden Temple, the Mirror of Futures, the leader shrouded in fog, but as I spoke, her eyes filled with love and worry, but also with doubt. I could see it in her face, the way her brows knit together, the way her lips pressed into a thin line. She nodded along, but I could tell she didn't know what to make of it, didn't know if it was a dream, a hallucination, or something more. And how could I blame her? I didn't even know how to make sense of it myself. All I knew was that it felt more real than anything I'd ever experienced in my entire life, more real than the cold sheets beneath me, more real than the smell of the antiseptic, more real than the doctor's words in my ear. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a fantasy. It was something bigger, something sacred, and it had been given to me for a reason. I knew that deep in my soul, even if I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to do with it yet. As the weeks went on and life started to settle back into its old rhythms, I tried to go back to normal. I went back to school, back to sitting at my desk with my notebooks, listening to the chatter of my classmates, their laughter, their complaints about homework and tests and crushes. But everything felt different, like I was watching it all through a window, like I wasn't really part of it anymore. It wasn't that I didn't care. I did. I loved my friends, loved my family, loved the little routines that made up my days. But it was like I had seen behind a curtain, like I had been shown the machinery that makes the world turn, and now I couldn't unsee it. I would look around and feel like I could see people's pain, see their sadness hiding behind their smiles, see the love they didn't know how to express. Sometimes I'd catch myself staring at someone, feeling this strange warmth in my chest, like I was connected to them in a way I couldn't explain. It wasn't like I was psychic or anything, but I could feel things deep, wordless feelings that seemed to echo from the souls of the people around me. I started hearing music in the wind, soft whispers in the quiet moments, like little reminders from the other side. When I was alone at night, I'd close my eyes and feel the bridge under my feet, the golden light in the temple, my grandfather's arms around me, and I would cry not because I was sad, but because I missed it. I missed the peace, the love, the truth that seemed so clear there and so easily forgotten here. One night, maybe a few months after I'd come back, I woke up in the middle of the night with tears streaming down my face. I'd had a dream, a vivid, pulsing dream that felt less like a dream and more like a message. In it, I was standing in that same temple above the earth, looking down through the swirling mirror of water, watching the world turn beneath me. I saw cities filled with people, faces I didn't know, and yet I felt so connected to each of them, like I was tied to them by invisible threads. I saw the leader again, the man with the foggy face. He was standing at a podium, speaking into cameras, and I felt that same unease, that sense of dissonance, like his voice didn't match his heart, like there was a mask over his true self. And then I saw it, the moment when everything shifted. Documents were released, secrets exposed, truths that had been buried for decades suddenly coming to light. People were shouting, crying, holding each other, and the air was thick with a mix of fear and relief, like the whole world had been holding its breath and was finally exhaling. I felt it so deeply, this moment of awakening, this breaking of illusions. And in the dream, I heard my grandfather's voice, soft but strong. Remember, Sarah. When this happens, you will know. You will feel it in your soul, and you will help them understand. I woke up gasping, my heart racing, tears soaking my pillow, and I knew this wasn't over. The vision hadn't been a one-time thing. It was a part of me now, a responsibility, a calling I didn't ask for but couldn't ignore. And even though I was terrified, even though I felt so small, I knew I couldn't turn away from it. I had been given a glimpse of something bigger, and I had to hold on to it no matter how heavy it felt. In the weeks and months that followed, I tried to push the visions, the feelings, the memories into the background, to act like everything was normal, like I could go back to being the same Sarah Lynn Mitchell who walked to school every morning, helped her mom cook dinner, and argued with her little brother over silly things like who got the last scoop of ice cream. I tried to pretend that the moment when my heart stopped was just a medical event, something scary that had happened, but something I could eventually forget. But the truth was, it was like trying to ignore a fire burning in the middle of my chest. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't unsee what I had seen, couldn't unfeel what I had felt. The memories weren't fading like a dream. They were etched into my soul, as clear and sharp as the day they happened. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the golden bridge shimmering beneath my feet, heard the soft chimes of the harp-like sounds with each step, felt the weight of my grandfather's hand in mine. I could smell the cedar and tobacco of his shirt, hear the tenderness in his voice when he called me his little sunshine. And every time I tried to explain it to someone, it felt like the words I had weren't enough. How do you explain that you've seen a temple that isn't made of bricks and wood, but of light and love and memory? How do you explain that you've felt the stories of souls written in books that glow and hum with music, that you've seen futures unravel like threads in a tapestry too big to comprehend? My mom would listen and she'd smile, but there was always that flicker of doubt in her eyes, that quiet fear that maybe I was just having strange dreams because of what had happened to me. My friends didn't really know what to say, so they didn't say much at all. And so most of the time, I just stayed quiet, kept it all inside, even though it felt like it was going to burst out of me at any second. I started to notice little things, too, things I hadn't noticed before, or maybe things I hadn't been able to notice until after I'd come back. Sometimes I'd be walking down the street, and I'd pass a stranger, and for a split second, I'd feel this wave of sadness wash over me, like I could feel the pain they were carrying, the grief they weren't showing, the battles they were fighting in silence. Other times, it was the opposite. I'd see someone, and I'd feel this sudden warmth, like a spark of joy, a deep, quiet love that wasn't mine but theirs. It wasn't like I could read minds, not exactly, but it was like I could feel their souls, like I could sense what they were holding in their hearts. It was overwhelming at times. I'd sit in my room at night, listening to the sound of the wind in the trees outside, and it was like I could still hear the whispers from the other side, soft, loving voices that told me I wasn't alone, that I was loved, that I had a purpose. But there was also this weight, this sense of urgency, like there was something I was supposed to do, something I had to share, even though I didn't know how or when or where. I would wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, tears on my face, after dreaming of the temple again, always the temple, always the mirror of water swirling with possible futures, always the leader shrouded in fog. His face hidden, but his presence looming like a shadow over the world. And I would remember my grandfather's voice, so clear it felt like he was standing right next to me. You will help them understand. You will help them remember who they are. One afternoon, I was sitting outside on the back porch, the sun warm on my face, the sounds of birds in the trees, and it all felt so normal. But inside, I was anything but normal. I was staring at the sky, watching the clouds drift across the blue, and I felt this ache in my chest, this longing for the place I had been, the light, the love, the knowing. I felt tears sting my eyes, and I whispered out loud, "Why me? Why did I have to see all of this? What am I supposed to do with it?" And in that moment, it was like the world paused. The wind stopped. The birds went silent. And in that stillness, I felt it, a presence, warm and familiar, like my grandfather's hand on my shoulder. It wasn't a voice exactly, not in the way we hear words with our ears, but it was a message all the same, clear and steady in my heart, because you were willing, because you asked to remember, because they will need you. And I broke. I sat there, sobbing into the quiet, overwhelmed by the love I felt, but also by the weight of it. I was just a girl from a small town with a family that barely scraped by, with dreams of becoming an artist and living a simple life. I wasn't someone special, wasn't a preacher or a prophet or a visionary. I was just Sarah. And yet I knew deep down in the core of my being that this wasn't an accident. That the things I had seen, the visions I had been given, they weren't random. They were a part of something bigger, a piece of a story that I was being asked to carry. And even though I was scared, even though I didn't know how I would ever find the words, I knew I had to try. The hardest part, I think, was feeling like I didn't belong anymore, not in the way I used to. My friends would talk about prom dresses, college applications, the latest trends on social media, and I'd smile and nod and laugh along, but inside, I felt like I was holding the secret that was too heavy, too sacred to share. I would sit in class and stare at the clock, watching the seconds tick by, and feel this aching sense that time wasn't real the way we thought it was. I'd look at my teachers, my classmates, the janitors sweeping the hallways, and I'd wonder, do they know? Have they felt it too? Have they had moments when they felt the veil lift, even just for a second? I wanted so badly to grab them by the shoulders and shake them and say, "Wake up. There's so much more than this. We're more than our jobs, our grades, our relationships. We're souls, ancient and bright, and we're here for a reason." But I didn't. I just sat there, feeling like an outsider in my own life, like I was living in two worlds at once, the one everyone else could see, and the one that pulsed beneath it, the one filled with light and love and infinite connections. And through it all, I kept hearing my grandfather's voice, soft and steady, a quiet reminder, you are not alone. You never have been. And when the time comes, you will know. As time passed, the weight of what I had seen didn't fade. It grew heavier, like a secret that pressed into my bones, reminding me with every breath that there was a message I was supposed to carry, a story I had been entrusted with. I would walk down the street in my small town and feel the world around me so differently than I had before. The trees didn't just sway in the breeze, they seemed to whisper ancient truths, their branches stretching out like the arms of old friends, reminding me that everything is connected. The sunlight filtering through the leaves didn't just feel warm, it felt alive, like it was carrying the love I had felt in that other place, the love that had wrapped around me when I had no body, no breath, no heartbeat. Every person I passed seemed more than just a person. They were a soul, carrying their own stories, their own silent battles, their own quiet heartbreaks and longings. I could see it in their eyes, feel it in the subtle weight of the air around them. I would wonder if they knew, if they had ever felt what I had felt, if they had ever caught a glimpse of the greater truth that pulses beneath this world we think is all there is. I wanted to tell them, wanted to shake them and say, "You're so much more than you think you are. You're not just this body, this name, this life. You're part of something so much bigger, something so full of love it could break you wide open if you let it." But I didn't know how. I didn't know how to start. So I held it all inside, and it ached like a song trapped in my chest that I couldn't find the words for. There were nights when the memories came back so vividly it was like I was there again, back in the Temple of Light, back on the Bridge of Gold, back in my grandfather's arms. I'd wake up with tears on my face, my pillow damp, my chest tight with the ache of wanting to go back, of longing for that place where everything made sense, where love wasn't something you had to earn or prove, but something that just was endless, infinite, unconditional. Sometimes I would sit on the edge of my bed in the dark, my heart racing, the room spinning, and I would whisper, "I remember. I remember." And in those moments, it was like I could feel them again, my grandfather, my great-grandmother, my uncle, even the sister I had never known. They were there, not in the way we think of people being there, but in the feeling of the air, in the quiet creak of the floorboards, in the warmth that would bloom in my chest when I was on the verge of giving up. They were there, reminding me that I wasn't alone, that I was never alone, that I had been chosen to see for a reason, even if I didn't fully understand it yet. And sometimes, when the world felt too heavy, when the news was too dark, when people seemed so lost in their own pain and distractions that I thought maybe none of it had mattered, I would hear that whisper in my heart, soft, steady, unshakable. "Hold on. The time will come. You'll know when it's time." There were moments when I tried to tell myself that maybe it had all been a dream, that maybe it was just my brain trying to make sense of what had happened when my heart stopped, just some kind of strange survival mechanism, a hallucination. But every time I tried to believe that, the memories would push back with a force I couldn't ignore. I could still feel the pulse of the bridge beneath my feet, still hear the soft hum of the books in the temple, still see the swirling water in the mirror and the blurred face of the leader I wasn't supposed to know yet. It wasn't just a dream. It was too real, too vivid, too alive. And besides, I could feel the changes in myself, the way I saw the world, the way I could sense things I never could before. It was like the veil between this world and the next had been lifted, just enough for me to peek through, and now I couldn't unsee what was there. I couldn't forget the way the sky in that other place shifted with my emotions, how the flowers seemed to sing, how the people I met didn't speak with words, but with a deep knowing that flowed straight into my heart. I couldn't forget the way my grandfather had held me and told me I had a mission, how he had shown me the future, the protests, the people in the streets, the leader who would be unmasked, the world shaking beneath the weight of truth. I couldn't forget the way my grandmother had taken my hand and told me that love never dies, that we are never alone, that we are all connected in ways too deep for words. Those moments lived in me like a second heartbeat, pulsing quietly beneath the surface of everything I did. And the more I tried to hide from it, the more the universe seemed to remind me. It was in the books I would randomly pick up where I'd read a line that echoed what I had seen. It was in the music that would play on the radio at just the right moment, lyrics that spoke to my soul and made me feel like I wasn't crazy, like someone else had glimpsed it too. It was in the random conversations I'd overhear at the grocery store, where strangers would talk about things that aligned too perfectly with what I had felt. It was in the quiet moments when I was alone, staring at the stars, when I'd feel this warmth spread through my chest, like my grandfather's hand resting there, reminding me, you are not alone. You never have been. It was like the universe kept nudging me, whispering, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. And no matter how much I wanted to go back to being normal, to just blend in, to forget about the leader in the fog and the swirling mirror and the books of light, I couldn't. I wasn't meant to. I had seen too much, felt too much, and I knew deep in my bones, in my soul, that when the time came, I would have to speak. I would have to tell the story. And when I did, it would help others remember too. It wasn't about me. It was about all of us, our souls, our light, our connection to something so much bigger, something so full of love it could change everything if we let it. There were days when the weight of it all almost felt like too much to carry. I would lie in bed at night, staring up at the ceiling, the dark pressing in around me, and I would feel like I was the only person in the world who had seen behind the curtain, who had felt the truth in such a raw, undeniable way. The loneliness of it was crushing sometimes, like being trapped between two worlds, this one, where people smiled and laughed and talked about what was on TV, and the other. The place of golden bridges and singing flowers and books of light that hummed with the stories of souls. I wanted so badly to go back. There were nights when I would close my eyes and beg God to take me there again, just for a moment, just long enough to feel that peace, that love, that sense of belonging that made everything here feel so small in comparison. But it never came, not in the same way. I would feel whispers of it, little flickers, like a warm breeze on my skin, like the sudden scent of cedar and tobacco when no one else was around, like a soft voice in my mind reminding me that I was loved. But the full immersion, the overwhelming presence of that place, it stayed just out of reach, like a dream I couldn't quite fall back into. And yet, even though I longed for it, I also knew that I had been sent back for a reason. I wasn't meant to stay there, not yet. I was meant to carry the memory, the knowing, the message. And as much as I wanted to pretend that I could just slip back into my old life, I couldn't. Every moment was different now. Every conversation felt heavier, every interaction more meaningful. I would look into someone's eyes and wonder, do they know? Have they felt it too? Are they waiting for someone to tell them it's real? I felt like I was holding this treasure, this sacred truth, and I didn't know how to share it without sounding crazy, without scaring people, without making them look at me like I was broken or imagining things. So I stayed quiet, and the quiet grew heavier by the day. And yet, in the silence, I started to notice something else, a kind of quiet strength growing inside me. It wasn't loud or flashy, not the kind of strength that stands on a stage and commands attention. It was subtle, like a current running underneath everything I did. When someone in my life was hurting, I could feel it, and I could sit with them in their pain in a way I never could before. I wouldn't always have the words, but I could hold space for them, just sit there and be a presence, and I could see in their eyes that somehow they felt lighter after. I could see it in the way their shoulders relaxed, in the way they exhaled, like they had been carrying a weight and I had taken a little piece of it just by being there. I think part of it was because I wasn't afraid of pain anymore, not in the way I had been before. I had seen that pain wasn't the end, that death wasn't the end, that even when it feels like everything is falling apart, there's a bigger picture, a greater love holding it all together. And so, I could sit with people in their darkest moments, and even if I didn't say a word, they could feel it, the quiet knowing, the steady heartbeat that whispered, "You are loved. You are not alone. This isn't the end." It wasn't something I planned or tried to do. It just happened, naturally, like it was part of who I had become. And every time it happened, I felt my grandfather's presence close by, as if he was nodding, smiling, reminding me that this was why I had been sent back, not to preach, not to save, but to remind. To hold the light when others couldn't see it. To be a seed, just like he had told me. But there was still that other part of the vision, the part that haunted me, the leader, the fog, the world shaking as secrets were revealed. It was like a movie that played on repeat in the back of my mind, snippets of it flashing in my dreams, in the quiet moments when my mind wandered. I could see the people in the streets, the signs they held, the tears in their eyes. I could hear the sound of news anchors' voices, urgent and breathless, the chaos as truths came pouring out like water breaking through a dam. And always, there was the man, the leader. His face remained hidden, always blurred by that strange fog, but his presence loomed like a shadow over the world. Sometimes I would catch a flicker of something in my dreams, a shape, a gesture, the sound of a voice, but it was never clear, never enough to name him. And yet I knew that when the time came, when the truth was revealed, I would feel it in my soul, the same way I had felt the golden light in the temple, the same way I had felt the love of my family surrounding me on the bridge. I would know. And when I knew, I would have to speak. That part terrified me more than anything. The idea of standing up, of saying out loud what I had seen, of telling people that I had been shown something beyond this world, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into a void. What if they didn't believe me? What if they laughed? Or worse, what if they turned away, afraid? What if I wasn't strong enough to carry the message? What if I let the fear win? But then, in those moments of doubt, I would remember the blue stone my grandfather had placed in my hand, the way it had pulsed with light, the way he had told me I wouldn't carry it physically, but I would feel it when I touched truth, love, my own essence. I would close my eyes and feel that pulse, that quiet, steady heartbeat of the universe, and I would remember I wasn't alone. I never had been. And I wasn't chosen because I was the strongest, the smartest, or the most special. I was chosen because I was willing. Because I had said yes, even if I didn't remember doing it. And now my yes had to mean something. There was one night, one I will never forget, when I felt the presence so strongly, it was like the air itself was humming. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, the house quiet, everyone asleep, when I felt it. It was like a warmth spreading across my chest, a vibration that filled the whole room. I sat up, heart racing, tears already streaming down my face, and I whispered into the dark, "I remember. I'm here. I'm ready." And in that moment, I heard it, not a voice with words, but a deep, resonant knowing that settled into every cell of my body. You are loved. You are not alone. And when the time comes, you will remember exactly what to do. I lay back down, my tears soaking into the pillow, and I felt this deep, beautiful peace settle over me, like the arms of my grandfather and grandmother were holding me, like the presence of God itself was cradling me in the dark. And in that moment, I knew that no matter how hard it got, no matter how heavy the truth felt, No matter how afraid I wasn't alone. And I would be ready. When the world began to shake, when the masks fell, when the truth poured out like a flood, I would remember. I would stand up and I would speak. And when I did, I wouldn't just be speaking for myself. I would be speaking for every person who had ever felt the love I had felt, who had ever glimpsed the other side, who had ever heard the whisper in the quiet saying, "You are loved. You are not alone." That would be my purpose. That would be my calling. And I would not be afraid. The days continued to pass, but they never felt quite the same after everything I had experienced. Each morning I woke up, it was like I carried the weight of two worlds inside me, the ordinary world everyone else saw, the one filled with routines and small talk and everyday struggles, and the other world, the world of light and love and deep truths that most people never get to see. I would go through the motions, eating breakfast, helping Ethan with his homework, listening to my mom's tired sighs after her long shifts, but it was like I was always half somewhere else, like a part of me still stood on that golden bridge, still felt the hum of those books in the temple, still carried the warmth of my grandfather's arms around me. And no matter how much time passed, the memories didn't fade. They stayed as sharp and vivid as ever, sometimes even sharper. There were moments when I would be walking to school or sitting in my room sketching, and I would feel the air shift around me, like an unseen hand brushing against my skin. Sometimes it would be the scent of cedar and tobacco, so strong it was like my grandfather had just walked into the room. Other times, it was a whisper in my mind, so soft, so quiet, I almost missed it, but when I really listened, I could hear it clearly, remember. That one word, remember. It would echo in my chest, vibrating through my bones, and I would feel this rush of love, of purpose, of knowing that I wasn't just an ordinary girl in an ordinary town. I was part of something bigger, something so much bigger than I could wrap my mind around. And even though it scared me sometimes, it also filled me with this fierce, unshakable sense of faith. I knew I had been shown what I had been shown for a reason. I knew that when the time came, I would know what to do. And I knew that I wasn't alone. Not ever. But still, the waiting was hard. There were times when I felt restless, like a storm was building inside me, like I was holding my breath, waiting for the moment when everything would shift, when the world would tremble under the weight of the truth. I would lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, my hands folded over my heart, and I would feel it, the pulse of the universe, steady and strong, beating in time with my own. I would remember the vision of the man shrouded in fog, the leader who would one day be unmasked, and my stomach would twist with this mix of dread and anticipation. I didn't know who he was or when the moment would come, but I could feel it coming, like a wave building far out at sea, growing taller and stronger with every passing day. And sometimes I would feel it so strongly it was like the air itself was vibrating, like I could hear the distant echoes of people's cries, the shouts in the streets, the tearful prayers whispered into the dark. I could see the faces in my dreams, faces of people I didn't know, but loved all the same, ordinary people who would one day feel the shock of truth crash over them like a tidal wave. I saw the chaos, the news anchors' frantic voices, the leaders' desperate denials, the people flooding the streets with signs and chants and tears. But I also saw the light that would follow. I saw people coming together, hands reaching across divides, hearts opening, eyes wide with the wonder of realizing that they had been asleep and were finally waking up. I saw the beauty of it, even in the pain. And every time I saw it, every time the vision played in my heart, I felt that same quiet, steady voice inside me whisper, "You will help them understand. When the time comes, you will remember." There was one afternoon. I remember it so vividly when the air felt electric, like the world itself was holding its breath. I was sitting outside on the porch, the sky stretched wide and blue above me, the wind gentle against my face, and for a moment, everything felt so peaceful, so still. And then, all at once, it was like the veil thinned, just for a second, and I could feel the presence of my grandfather so strongly it was like he was sitting right next to me. I didn't see him with my eyes, but I felt him. With every part of me, I felt him. His love wrapped around me like a warm blanket, and I heard his voice, not with my ears, but deep inside my chest, steady and clear. "It's coming, Sarah. The time is coming soon. And when it does, you'll feel it in your bones. You'll know." And then the wind shifted, and the world seemed to exhale, and I sat there, my heart racing, tears sliding down my cheeks, feeling both terrified and comforted all at once. It was a moment that marked me, that etched itself into my memory like a carving in stone. From that day on, I knew I had to be ready. I had to keep my heart open, my mind steady, my soul anchored in the love I had felt on the other side. I had to be strong, not just for myself, but for the people who would need someone to remind them of the truth when the world started to shake. And I promised myself in that moment that when the time came, no matter how scared I was, no matter how small I felt, I would stand up. I would speak. I would tell the story. But telling the story, that's the part that scared me the most. How do you even begin to explain something like this? How do you tell people that you died, that your heart stopped, that you left your body and crossed into a place more beautiful and real than anything in this world? How do you describe the way the air felt alive, the way the light hummed with love, the way the bridge beneath your feet pulsed with the music of the universe itself? How do you tell them about the books that held the stories of souls, about the mirror of water that showed the possible futures of the world, about the leader whose mask would one day be torn away? How do you explain that you saw people waking up, breaking down, and then rising together in love and truth? I would sit at my desk, pen in hand, journal open in front of me, and the words would swirl in my mind, but they never felt big enough, never felt strong enough to hold the weight of what I had seen. I would try to write, but the tears would come, and I would close the journal, the pages still empty, my heart still full. It felt like trying to describe a sunrise to someone who had never seen color, like trying to explain the sound of music to someone who had never heard. And so I stayed quiet. I waited. I trusted that when the time came, the words would come too, that they would flow through me like the light had flowed through the temple, that they would hum with the same love that had wrapped around me on the bridge, that they would carry the same pulse as the blue stone my grandfather had placed in my hand. I knew I couldn't rush it. I had to be patient. I had to trust. And so I wait. I wait with my heart open, my eyes watching, my soul ready. I wait for the moment when the world will start to tremble, when the masks will fall, when the truths that have been hidden will rise to the surface and demand to be seen. I wait for the day when the leader's face will come into focus, when the fog will lift, when people will realize they have been lied to, manipulated, controlled. I wait for the day when the cries of the people will rise up in unison, when the pain will be raw and real, but so will the love. I wait for the moment when I will know, with every part of me, that it's time to speak. And when that moment comes, I will stand up. I will open my mouth, and the words will pour out not just from me, but through me. They will come from the place beyond the veil, from the love that never dies, from the family that surrounds me even now, whispering in my ear, holding my hand, reminding me, you are loved. You are not alone. And when the time comes, you will remember. I don't know when it will happen. I don't know how. but I know it will, and I will be ready. And now I find myself here, sitting with my hands folded, my heart pounding as I tell you all of this, not because I feel brave, not because I have it all figured out, but because I know I can't stay silent anymore. The weight of it has been sitting inside me for so long, pressing on my chest like a stone, growing heavier with every day that passes, every dream that comes, every quiet moment when I hear the whispers in my heart. I've carried this story for years, afraid of what people might think, afraid they'd say I was crazy, that it was just a dream, just my brain playing tricks on me after a medical emergency. But I know deep down, in the deepest part of me, that it wasn't just a dream. It wasn't some random, meaningless hallucination. It was real. It was a gift. It was a glimpse into the truth that so many of us have forgotten, that we are souls, ancient and eternal, woven into the fabric of a love so big, so all-encompassing, that it's impossible to put into words. And I know now more than ever that I was sent back for a reason, not just to live my life, not just to be Sarah Mitchell from Pine Grove, Oregon, but to carry this message, to be a seed, to help others remember when the time comes. That time, it's coming. I feel it in the air, in the ground, in the pulse of the world around me. It's like standing on a beach, watching the tide go out, feeling the ocean pull back as it gathers strength for the wave that's about to crash in. I don't know when it will happen or how, but I know it will. I know there will be a moment, maybe when I'm watching the news, maybe when I hear a voice on the radio, maybe when I see something online or in a crowd, and it will hit me like a bolt of lightning. I'll see his face, the leader's face, clear and unmasked at last, and I'll know. And when I do, I won't be able to stay silent anymore. The words will pour out of me, and I'll have to tell the world, I saw this. I was shown this. It's happening, just like they told me it would. And I know it won't be easy. I know there will be fear, confusion, anger. People will fight, people will cry, people will resist. The world will shake under the weight of the truth. But I also know that the light will follow. I've seen it. I've felt it. I've watched the visions of people breaking apart, only to come back together, stronger, clearer, more connected than they ever were before. I've seen hands reaching across lines that once divided us, race, politics, religion, status, and holding each other in love, not because the pain wasn't real, but because they finally saw that the pain wasn't the end, that the pain was a doorway, that when the truth comes out, it will hurt, but it will also heal. It will break us open, but in the breaking, we'll find something we lost, a connection to each other, to the earth, to the love that holds it all together. I've seen that future, and I carry it inside me like a flame. I don't know what my role will look like exactly. Maybe it's videos like this. Maybe it's sitting with someone in a coffee shop and letting the words spill out. Maybe it's standing in front of a crowd someday when the moment is right. I don't know. But I know I'll be ready because I've been preparing for this since the day my heart stopped, since the day I walked on the bridge of light, since the day my grandfather put that blue stone in my hand and told me, you'll feel it when it's time. And if you're hearing this, maybe you're feeling it too. Maybe something in you is stirring, a memory you didn't know you had, a whisper in your heart saying, I remember. I know this is true. I've felt it too. If you're feeling that, I want you to know you're not alone. You've never been alone. The love that holds you is bigger than anything you've been told, anything you've been taught. It's in the air you breathe, in the trees that sway, in the quiet moments when you feel the weight of the world lift just a little, and you wonder why. It's in the tears you cry when you think no one's watching, in the moments when your heart aches and you don't know why, in the dreams that feel too real to ignore. You're part of this story too. We all are. And when the time comes when the world starts to tremble, when the truths long buried rise to the surface, when the faces behind the masks are revealed, you'll feel it. You will remember. And maybe you'll find the courage to tell your story too, to stand up and say, I saw this. I felt this. I know this is real. And together, maybe we'll help each other through it, one heart at a time, one soul at a time, one story at a time. So that's why I'm here today, speaking these words into a microphone, letting them pour out of me even though my hands are shaking and my throat is tight. Because I know I can't hold it in any longer. I know that even if just one person hears this and feels the spark of recognition, feels the warmth in their chest, feels the tears well up in their eyes because something deep inside them is saying, yes, yes, I remember too, then it's worth it. It's worth every tear I've cried, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt. I'm here to tell you, you are not alone. You are loved deeply and endlessly by a love so much bigger than anything you've been taught to believe. And when the time comes when the world shakes, when the truth breaks through, when the light pours in, you will remember. And you'll know exactly what to do. Until then, hold on. Stay soft. Stay open. And listen to the whispers. They're closer than you think. Thank you for listening to my story, for sharing this moment with me, for being willing to hear something that may challenge what you think you know. If this has touched something inside you, if it's made you feel even the smallest flicker of warmth or recognition, please share it. Share it with someone who might need to hear it. Share it because we're all in this together, and the more we remember, the more we wake up, the more light we bring into this world. And if you feel that call in your heart, that quiet voice saying, it's time, then know that I'm here with you, and I'll be waiting to stand beside you when the moment comes. If this story has spoken to you, if you feel that pull, that quiet sense of knowing, please don't let it fade away. Take a moment right now to like this video, to share it with someone you love, to subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this, because I know I'm not the only one out there who has seen the other side. And if you've had an experience, a dream, a vision that stayed with you, please share it in the comments. Let's create a space where we can hold each other's stories, where we can remind each other that we are not alone, that we are connected, and that when the time comes, we will stand together in the light. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for remembering me,